Hey guys, I'm here for another edition of Casual MTG, which is just, short video series I do about casual play decks I make that are, mostly for the kitchen table, not for your Friday Night Magic. But they're generally super budget and they're generally a lot of fun to play. The other two I've done have been the Mono Red Gas Can Burn deck, the Modern, which was for Standard, and the Modern Kosi's Trickster deck, and also I did a Modern Light Mine Field Knight Tribal deck. Um, and now I decided to do a Living Lore deck. I drafted it a few weeks back in a draft, and I just really enjoyed the card. It worked well in the deck we made. And so I decided to make, sort of a deck around it in Standard. And so the basic idea of the deck is to get a huge Living Lore out there with a really powerful spell on it, like Treasure Cruiser, Temporal Trespass, and then to, beat my opponent down with it. And to get these things in the graveyard, I run 4 2-drops that can do just that. I run 4, it's a blue-green deck as you can see. I run 4 Commune with the Gods, which you can see here. And it allows me to, on turn 2, look at the top 5 cards in my library and put a creature card into my hand. So say I see Living Lore, put it into my hand, and then put the rest of my graveyard. So, it can throw any of these spells into my graveyard. Will of the Naga is also a decent target. And I also have Satyr Wayfinder, who can also help me find a land if I need it. And he just does 4 cards instead of 5. And I also have 3 Gurmag Drowners, who have a similar effect. Look at the top 4, and then I can put any card I want in my hand and the rest into my grave. So it's pretty easy to get a creature, to get a spell, one of these spells in my graveyard. And it'll happen pretty frequently. It's not unheard of for this deck to have a turn 4 11/11 Living Lore, which is obviously hard for most people to deal with. Obviously, removal gets rid of him pretty easily, but it's still a lot of fun to make it happen. And in addition to, sort of the main strategy of the deck, I have, a few other win conditions, I guess. I also have 4 Hooting Mandrills. Since I'm going to be filling up my graveyard, he's pretty easy to play. If I don't have a Living Lore early, I can play a turn 2 Hooting Mandrills pretty easily. If I play, a turn 3, play Commune with the Gods into Hooting Mandrills. It's pretty easy to go to play him on turn 3 as a 4/4 Trampler, which is not easy to deal with. And I also have 3 Gurmag Meringue River Prowlers, who, if they end up in my graveyard, I can still play them as long as I have a green permanent. So basically my Wayfinders are my Mandrills. So it's a card that can be played from my graveyard even if I mill it with one of these things. And then to protect, sort of the combo, and the idea is I have some counter magic. I have Rakshas's Disdain, which can be a hard counter a lot of the time. The reason I only run 2 is because right after I delve something, I'll have like 1 card in my graveyard, and it's not nearly as good. Instead, I have 4 Dissolves, which is just a hard counter that can also help me scry. And I have Will of the Naga too, which can help me swing through for damage with Living Lore and my Hooting Mandrills and stuff like that. And it's also not a bad, a turn 4 Living Lore is a 6/6 that can tap my opponent's creatures down, especially if I have like a Mandrills in play, is a pretty big problem for my opponent. The deck can also hardcast Temporal Trespass and Treasure Cruise with all the milling it does to itself. And the land base in this deck's really cheap because Temple of Mystery is basically the cheapest of the Scry lands. It's about 3 cents right now. And then I just have Thornwood Falls. I didn't get any fetch lands or pain lands. And because of that, this deck is like incredibly cheap. I think it's the cheapest deck I've made so far. Let me pull over MTGO Traders. If you buy it on Magic Online, it's only $1.63. That's all the cards in the deck, as you can see here. Oh, I haven't talked about the sideboard yet. The sideboard cards are here too, so just main board it's even cheaper. In my sideboard, I sort of have ways to optimize our counter magic. I can, against an opponent who's playing sort of a control game and wants to play a huge win condition, we can side out a couple Dissolves for Disdainful Strokes. Against opponents with not many creatures, we can side out a couple Dissolves for Negates. And against opponents with a lot of creatures and not a lot of removal, we can side in Nullify. So I have a 4th Will of the Naga. If tapping down my creatures, my opponent's creatures is big. Then I have Naturalize to deal with problem enchantments and artifacts. And if I want to go even more creature central strategy, I can side in Fated Intervention, which can, makes 2/3/3 Centaur creature tokens, and is also a decent target for Living Lore. So it's a way of, even if I have to sacrifice my Living Lore, I get 2/3/3 tokens in the process. So that's the deck. It's crazy cheap. It's a lot of fun. I'll probably record about 3 matches with it to show you what it does. And